Welcome back to the channel. This will be a different kind of video today. No guitar playing, no demos. I will be discussing the Fender cease and desist controversy. It's been a little more than a week since Phil McKnight first talked about this on his weekly podcast slash YouTube live. I think that's when it first became widely known. Today it's May 24th, 2026 as I record this. And I wanted to share my thoughts, which are probably somewhat unique amongst people you'll hear talking about this on YouTube. And at the end, I will tell you what my personal position is going to be on this. What I'm not going to do is tell anyone what to do, because I know a lot of people, and understandably so, we're calling for a Fender boycott and things of that nature. But I think this is a more nuanced situation with a lot of layers. So if you watch my channel, you will often see uh, that I might be wearing a suit or a sport coat or something of that nature. I make it a point to never talk about my day job on here, and I'm going to continue with that by not talking about it in any sort of detail. But suffice to say, for almost 20 years, I have dealt a lot with lawyers professionally and a lot with people in positions of high authority, though for me, more so in the government context. And when I look at this situation and what has happened, I think that a high level law firm, because you would not be representing a large corporation like Fender if you weren't a high level law firm, with very aggressive attorneys and executives at Fender who I'm guessing most likely are not guitar players, saw this situation and saw it as an advantage to press rather than something to look at in a wider view. Because in my experience dealing with attorneys such as this, so I have no knowledge of this particular law firm, and people in these high positions of authority, they often have little or no insider empathy in terms of how these things actually affect people. Again, I'm not wanting to stereotype them. I know have no inside information, but having dealt with situations somewhat comparable to this, again, more in the government context than the corporate context, I can see it reminds me of things I've seen in the past. I'm guessing that these attorneys probably saw this as a legal advantage to press, and in their minds, the fact that they think they can assert this copyright rather over the Fender body shape for the Stratocaster is something that they can use to their advantage, and they do not take into account how we feel about it. The executives at Fender that okayed it are probably the same way. And what makes this different than a lot of situations is that the guitar world involves people's emotions and feelings. If this was your favorite brand of toilet paper doing this to other toilet paper brands, you might think, well, that's kind of sucks of them. But there would not be this emotional reaction. And I'm guessing a lot of these executives don't care what Fender is selling as long as they make money, and they see this as a way in their minds, probably incorrectly, to make more money. And the lawyers, it's just win at all costs, you know, like shark mentality, and have very little of any empathy in many cases. Again, I don't know these people personally or know anything about them personally, just going on my experience. I have been in meetings with high level decision makers and have been absolutely mystified about their lack of understanding of how the people on the ground actually think and feel. And I think this is 100% a case of that. Because a lot of times people who get to those positions have done so by disregarding what other people think or feel or how their actions affect other people 100% for their own gain. And now, personally, I think that's not a good way to go through life, but unfortunately, that's usually the type of person who gets to be a corporate executive of a large corporation. So, where this gets a little more nuanced, I think Tim Pierce hit upon this a bit, but there are people that work for Fender that probably think this is as horrible as everyone else does, who are going to be negatively impacted by this. They did not make this decision. They did not want this to happen. They probably know and like people that work for some of these other companies that Fender is threatening at the moment. And that's why I'm not going to say a boycott is right or wrong, but it's very easy to just say, well, we're going to take this out on Fender by not buying their guitars. And that's all well and good. And maybe that will send them a message, but there are probably real good people that are going to be hurt by this who had nothing to do with this decision. So that leaves a lot of us in a quandary. Again, I could lean over and see over a dozen Fender guitars and Fender style guitars because I have a couple of G&L ASATs over here. In another room, I have a G&L Legacy, which is their Strat style guitar. Uh, so, and a couple other Strat, more actual Fender and Squires. And I mean, I love these guitars. Fender have been making Telecasters for about 75 years. I hope they're still making Telecasters 75 years from now, and we're still here to play them. Uh, so it's difficult to know what to do in these situations because it is so complex. But what I think I am going to do, and I'll use myself as an example, and like I said earlier, guitars are an emotional purpose, or an emotional purchase rather. And you don't purchase a guitar for the same reasons you buy toilet paper or, you know, washing detergent or something like that. Those are very utilitarian items. You buy a guitar because it makes you happy. You might buy it because you have a specific use for it, but there's a lot of choices. It probably creates a positive emotional reaction to the specific guitar you pick. So as I sit here today in the United States, it is Memorial Day weekend and a lot of big sales going on. I happen to have about $112 in rewards points saved up at Musician's Friend, and I'm just itching to buy something. I'm waiting to see what the stupid deals of the hour are tomorrow on Memorial Day itself, as I got an email about that. I have a few things in mind. And typically there, would be a couple of Fender things. There are a couple Fender things that I was previously thinking about. Uh, and just so you know, in case you're curious, it's the I think it's a British Racing Green Jazz Master, which is one of those things that goes on sale a lot of times like this, and the Classic Vibe Mustang, because I've never had a Mustang. I thought that would be fun, and it's not on sale, but I think it has the 48-month no interest offer. And with my $112 in rewards points, that wouldn't cost very much at all, in the grand scheme of things. But I've just, amongst the like 10 guitars I'd like to choose from to buy one, all this has just soured me on it's taken the excitement out of it. You know, even putting aside sending a message to Fender and things like that, I just don't feel like buying a Fender guitar. That doesn't mean I'm going to sell my dozen Fender and Squire guitars or more that I have sitting over here. Doesn't mean I'm never someday ever going to buy a Fender again. But right now, what they have done has just made me not want to support them. It's not a, pitchfork and torches type situation. I just don't want to buy a Fender guitar right now. I'm probably going to buy either a PRS, an Epiphone, or a Gibson. Uh, and there's an Alvarez acoustic I've been looking at too. But and that's the other funny thing is that Gibson is usually the one that does this type of thing. Uh, Fender, back especially in I'd say the late 20 teens, the Big Two was sort of the good one in terms of not doing this type of thing, and I think that lasted through the beginning of the COVID pandemic, but it was very, very easy to see as that started to wind down. They took all the wrong takeaways from the COVID boom because it was clear that that was a special situation that was not going to last. They started trotting out new products left and right, some of which, were very niche, didn't have a lot of appeal. Some they probably got to, like the Aerodyne series, which is like fantastic guitars, but they hit right after the boom. Uh, I mean, the gold foil just didn't appeal to me. They've made a lot of questionable decisions since then, in my opinion. And of course, the prices are going up. It's just not, they're just not very sympathetic at the moment, which again, after the Play Authentic scandal several years ago. They were the good one of the big two, and now Gibson sort of, though they're still doing all their typical Gibson stuff, but their lawsuits and so on and so forth. Gibson is now somehow by default sort of the better, morally speaking, though. Uh, like I think it was John Stewart talked about a while back that I mean, companies will commandeer whatever, especially large companies, uh, perspective they think will make them more appealing to their audience, whether it be some social issue or what have you. And right now, neither of them are in very good standing, in my opinion. But it's so fresh with Fender, uh, it's hard to get excited about their products. So, I mean, I'm probably not going to buy a Fender when I might have. I probably would have bought that Jazzmaster, and I kind of lost my enthusiasm for it. So I'm probably going to get a guitar from one of their direct competitors instead. Not because I've, slammed my fist down and said no Fender guitars. I just don't want to buy one right now. So I don't pretend to have any insights into how legally this will play out, because I've also known in my many years of experience that anyone involved in a legal situation like this who can guarantee you anything is someone not to listen to, because you never know what a specific judge in a specific place is going to think and what they're going to do. But my personal opinion is I don't think that anything is actually going to come of this in the United States, at least. I don't know about Europe. Uh, I won't bore people who've probably heard this from people who aren't really qualified to be talking about it, about the, at least in the United States. I'm also not going to speak, especially not going to speak about law in other countries, which I have no familiarity with directly in a professional sense. But, I mean, I just don't see this working. But again, you never know what might happen. I think that it's a stretch, and using a default judgment, which is Phil and others who have talked about, and correctly for the most part from what I've heard, that just basically means it's like a basketball game where one team doesn't show up and you win by forfeit. I mean, did you win? Technically, yes. Did that prove you were the better team? Not necessarily. So to say that, okay, we got this default judgment from a, you know, Chinese ripoff manufacturer who just wasn't worth their time and trouble to show up and try to apply that to everyone, I just think it's just not what I would do if I were the one making those decisions, even putting aside the emotional aspect. So I'm not going to tell anyone to boycott or not boycott. I think that if people choose not to boycott, that I hope people aren't too harsh with them. Like, for example, I had already ordered this, and uh, before this happened, the new Godzilla Fender distortion pedal. Uh, and I thought, do I still want to make my video? Well, yes, I spent $150 on it, and I like it. And one of the reasons I bought it was to make a video about it, and that's not money I get paid for. That was out of my own pocket. So, I mean, you know, judge me if you will for putting out that video. Which again, I bought this before the scandal. It arrived a couple, 2 or 3 days after. And I thought, yeah, I mean, I like that pedal. The purpose of this channel is to demo guitar gear, so I went ahead and did it. And I'm not going to discourage anyone from buying it, because I'm unhappy with Fender at the moment. But I just hope that everyone in the guitar community, you know, treats everyone with some understanding. That again, even if you're unhappy with Fender, as I am unhappy with them, that the torches and pitchforks don't come out, and especially not towards each other. I would ask you if you see, I don't plan to demo any Fender products. I don't have any new Fender stuff in the pipeline in the foreseeable future. But if someone does, please don't be mean to them. If you don't want to be involved in Fender products, just don't watch the video. Uh, it's really easy for people to be mean on YouTube where they're 99% anonymous for the most part. Just treat each other with some understanding. And if you want to send the message to Fender by not buying their stuff, please by all means do so. If you still want to buy their stuff, I don't think you should feel guilty about it, because at the end of the day, it's not like any of these companies are saints. So Uh, if anyone watched the show The Good Place with Kristen Bell and Ted Danson a few years ago, I won't give away the show, but part of the theme of the show is you can try to do the morally right thing, but the world is such a complicated place, which seems like the morally right thing on the surface. Like, for example, like an example from the show, you might give to a charity to find out that the person in charge of the charity is embezzling the money and using it to, do something illegal. That's just a simple example. That was never your intention. You intended to support the charity because it was for a good reason, but you unwittingly supported something illegal. And that sort of thing happens all the time. So I would just follow your conscience. Don't get too caught up in the complexities of this. But I do think one thing we can all do who are unhappy about this is to speak out on social media and is to let Fender know in a very respectful way that we don't approve of this, that this is not something we're going to stand for. And then on the other side of things, if you want to go out and can afford and want to buy a Soar right now, do it. If you want to buy a Silver Sky, do it. Uh, if that's your way of sending a message to Fender, I'll go ahead and say that the PRS SE Studio, which is presently on sale on Musician's Friend, which is a vaguely strat-shaped guitar, I admit that the fact that this has happened makes me want to buy it just a little bit more, just to show that, I support these companies for doing it. Because again, putting aside the legalities of it all, this has been the way it's been for decades. And for Fender to try to pull the rug out from under these companies now is, again, for something where people have feelings about these products and the companies and the people who make these guitars, it's just bad. So, uh, those are generally my thoughts. I'd like to hear what you all think about this. And hopefully soon, and I'll say too, it seems like Fender, from what I can tell, is not backing off this. So, uh, please let me know your thoughts, and we'll see how this develops. And I hope soon to be back with a new guitar to demo for you like normal. So until next time, keep on rocking.